Hi, Greg DuPont here again, continuing my conversation about Bob. Now, just as a disclaimer, I have a brother named Bob, and this is not him, just in case anybody wants to link those together, because I would not let him do this. Anyhow, let's talk about Bob. We talked in the last video about how his brother is dealing with settling his affairs because Bob did a do-it-yourself will. Well, here is part of the rest of the story. There is assets in Bob's estate, primarily a home that was in Bob's name. Now, what's Bob's brother to do? Well, Bob's brother is not named as an executor, but he feels responsible to settle his brother's affairs. So if you find yourself in this position that Bob's brother finds himself in, what do you do first? Well, first thing you do is you secure the property. That home, you take the steps necessary to secure that property. You do need to handle ongoing maintenance of the property. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Third thing you should do is check for insurance. And the fourth thing is, well, we got to navigate the probate process. So let's take these one at a time. First things first, securing the property. You know, an empty house is a sitting target. So the first thing to do is make sure that there are any valuables that are in there, that they're secured. Take them to your home or whatever. We want to make sure that anything like jewelry, those type of things that could easily be taken, could be taken. Because Bob's death is public matter. People know. People know the house is vacant. Next up is maintenance on that property. You know, some things you may not think about, like making sure that we keep the heat on in the winter so we don't have frozen pipes. Conversely, making sure that we have the air conditioning on in the summer so we don't have it locked down, creating mold and issues of that nature. I've seen these happen over and over again in my 30 plus years of doing probate work. And making sure that the home is maintained. You know, got to keep regular cutting the grass, those type of things. These are the obligations that you've left behind, that Bob left behind. And here's a point that catches many people by surprise. When Bob passes away, his homeowner's insurance may have a limited effectiveness. You see, it's going to be a vacant property now, and most typical homeowners policies don't cover vacant properties. Now, they will provide some coverage if you contact them promptly and inform them of Bob's passing, but that still needs to be done. Finally, let's talk about the legal side of things, probate. Since Bob did a do-it-yourself will that was not admissible to the court because it was fatally flawed, there is no executor. An administrator needs to be appointed. That administrator, call it Bob's brother, then also needs to make sure that he qualifies for bonding, which means that the estate is going to have to bear cost of a bond to protect the estate from Bob's brother stealing it. Now, if the house is the only asset, like in Bob's case, well, then the brother has to come up with some money to pay for that and to pay for the cost of applying to court to be appointed as the administrator. Now, in other videos, we talked about the ability to disclaim property. Well, Bob's brother could have said, I don't need to deal with this. And then what happens? The home falls into disarray, disrepair, eventually into foreclosure. So these are things that you do not think about when you're doing a do-it-yourself plan. You don't have to go through these things alone. By setting up an appropriate estate plan, Bob's brother could have been appointed as executor, let alone the home could have been in a trust that would have avoided probate altogether. And how long does probate take? Well, generally speaking, they say 6 months to a year, year and a half. Well, I'd say a year, in my experience. And throughout that time, that home needs to be protected until it is sold. And it can't be sold until the court is involved and gives the authority to do it. So don't be like Bob. Don't do it yourself. Speak to a professional. If you'd like to speak to a professional on my team, call 614-408-0529.